What is up, everybody? This is Golden Dice Podcast, episode number 39, just shy of 40. As always, this is your host, Jack. With me, we have actually a face of a different content creator who hasn't been here in a while, but also somebody from our playtesting group who is joining us for the first time. So I'm going to introduce my buddy Brian, who I've known since kindergarten at this point. He's been on our team for playtesting for quite some while, and generally most nights are just me and him playing games in my basement. And I'm excited to have him on here to give us his wisdom and knowledge of.
Oh, yikes! I don't know about that.
But how are you, Brian?
Oh, good. I'm excited to be here. Super nervous, but super excited at the same time.
Yeah, it's our normal conversations. Don't worry, I'll yell at you a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. I'm ready for it. Not as bad as Flockton, though. Not as bad as Flockton.
No, we'll never have him on. When the man runs oh gosh, what is even her name? Iden. Well, Iden to counter Ray 1 in the meta when there's no Ray 1 in the meta. Yeah. Anyways, but with me and Brian this week, we have Jedi Geek Girl from iRebel, who obviously is probably the most resourceful, or if you're playing Destiny, you should know her website, obviously, because the amount of work that she puts into getting information out there to all of us is above and beyond that anything anybody else does. So Amanda, we're excited to have you.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we were just talking before the show. It's been about a year since you've been on.
It has, apparently.
Yeah, we covered regional result, because I think we started to do that a little bit, and you were already kind of in the swing of it. So we're like, well, hey, this makes sense. Let's team up.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I do that pretty much every year and whatnot. So
yeah, that was when I made all my crazy pie charts of. I basically took, because on your website you have the brackets of each regional, and I kind of took that and put it all in the pie charts, and that was the days of R2P2. So it was when I got to the finals, it was just one big circle of domination.
It was, and I really appreciate you doing that, because when you're collecting data and you're organizing it and you're putting it into these charts or these things of organization, that takes time. So you doing that last year was wonderful. And Bill Yoda Man, who came on this year to do the weekly regional reports for iRebelDestiny.com, has really helped to continue that. And I'm looking forward to growing and doing more things with store championships and more formats, because it's important to have that out there in the community, and I love doing it. I love data. So
yeah, it's awesome for me, and obviously if you're competitive within the game too, you want to know what won the previous week and what the top cut was and how many people were at that tournament, so you can prepare for the next week. But yeah, like you said, having Yodaman, right, is what he goes by. Yodaman.
Yeah, I believe that's how you pronounce it. So I just call him Yoda Man, which is probably not correct.
Oh, Yoda Man, yeah. But anyways, having him do it has been good. I've enjoyed his recaps, and he also did one of attendance and what regionals went up, what regionals went down, and also what regionals didn't have it this year and what new ones popped up. So that was a really great article as well. If you haven't checked that out, definitely head over and do that. But as we start to get into the show, we'll start off with what we've been doing for our guests and kind of start to ask them a little bit about that. And we did have you on before, but I don't really know if we did the questions before, and it was a year ago. So I figured, hey, let's just do it again. And also it gives a chance for our listeners to get to know Brian a little bit as well. So a few weeks back, we threw this question up to who was on here? Drew from Arrowbrook and Ray from Discard to Reroll about your favorite and least favorite Star Wars movie. And I, of course, wanted to ask that to you again, because I know that you have different opinions from Drew. I know his least favorite was The Last Jedi, but I know that's a movie that you enjoy. So I definitely wanted to give you the opportunity to sing the praises of whatever Star Wars movie you want to put up there.
Are you ready for a bit of controversy?
Let's do it.
Okay, so my favorite film is Revenge of the Sith, and my least favorite Star Wars film is Solo.
Okay, I can see Solo, but I feel like I'm biased because I love Han Solo, and there's just really, I was gonna love anything they put out.
Well, you gotta stay on brand, I gotta stay on brand with Rogue One, and Rogue One is one of those films that's really growing up there. I'm sure eventually it will come number 2, number 1, but right now it's Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, Rogue One was fantastic. Brian, what about you? What was your favorite and least favorite?
Well, I think that my favorite goes around all the time. I just can't choose. They're all so good. Well, not all of them. I'm getting ahead of myself. But most of them are so good that I really just can't choose. I think I have to agree. Revenge of the Sith is so good, but for so many different reasons than it actually being good. I don't know. Solo for me, I feel the complete opposite. I think Solo is just pure fun. Like I went into Solo with zero expectations whatsoever, and I came out going like, "Wow, holy crap, that was an awesome movie." And I think a lot of people really missed it because of the whole Last Jedi backlash, and people didn't really want to see it because the Last Jedi was so polarizing. Let's use the word polarizing because I don't want to just completely trash it, but it is definitely my least favorite as far as the movies go. Last Jedi's is just not not what I had in mind when I saw the movie. It definitely is love it or hate it at this point because I've tried so many times to go back and say, hey, I want to give it another try, but then I come out going like, Luke is drinking blue milk from like a weird giraffe monster thing. I just can't get over it. So
I would like to add on to that because I hear people talking about that film and their experiences about it, and for me, I feel that way about Solo. Not that Solo is not fun, it's not enjoyable, but a lot of the comments like you were talking about with The Last Jedi, I find myself coming to the same conclusions with Solo, and it helps me relate to those people who feel the different way than I do when it comes to The Last Jedi. So it's nice that we can have the same opinions about different films and able to connect on that because I think too many people miss that.
Yeah, they just go with their review and trash everything else. Yeah, I am gearing up for a Star Wars rewatch. I want to rewatch all the movies soon.
Oof, we know how that turned out though.
What order?
Well, yeah, we put. We'll probably. I don't have a preference really. I'm kind of open to any, but we might just do like chronologically of the actual story. So start with episode 1, 2, 3, Solo, Rogue One, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
We tried starting over Phantom Menace the other night, and it goes the same way every time. Like it's fine for a little bit, and then we get to Jar Jar, and I'm kind of like, I don't know about this
Well,
too much.
We were also playing like Keyforge and stuff, so
Yeah.
we weren't really even trying to put our attention into the movie.
Yeah,
We just kind of had it on in the background.
I tuned in for I like Watto a whole lot, so I'll pop my head up and be like, every time he comes back on, and then when the pod racing scene comes on, I only like the part where they say, I don't care what galaxy you're from, that's gotta hurt. So like the memes are funny for me, but like everything else is meh.
Well, to be fair, in my opinion, I think the last third of that film, as soon as they, attack Theed and that third act is quintessential Star Wars for me because it seems like with previous films, this was building on because if you remember, New Hope had one conclusion, Empire Strikes Back had two, Return of the Jedi had three, and this one has four different threads going along. And plus, that lightsaber fight is just I watched that the other day and I was like drawn into it.
Yeah, it's arguably one of the best lightsaber fights in all of Star Wars so far. And in my opinion, actually, I mean, I thought Last Jedi was just okay, but I think has one of the best lightsaber fights with Rey and Kylo. That was awesome.
That scene woke me up, actually.
Cool. So I really enjoyed hearing both of your opinions on the Star Wars. But now I wanted to ask how you specifically got into Destiny. And Jedi Geek Girl, we'll start with you. How did you get into Destiny? Were you in from the beginning or, a set or two later?
Oh, yeah. I'm one of those few that have been into the game since day one, hour one-ish. No, yeah, hour-ish one. Because I first heard about Destiny when they made the announcement on their website because at the time I was playing the Star Wars LCG and I had notifications turned on because you know how FFG is with communication and with an LCG especially you think it's bad right now. There was like no news and I wanted to stay up on top of it and suddenly they made this announcement and it was a new Star Wars game. I'm like, okay, it's Star Wars, it's a CGG, Both are up my alley. I am not currently playing a game like I was in the past. You know what? I'm in. I'm sold. At the next day, I created a Facebook group, and I've been a part of the Star Wars Destiny community and game ever since. So, yeah, there's not much to say except that I've been here since the beginning.
What's been your favorite part of Destiny?
The community, the friends I've made. It would be kind of selfish to say the content creation, but the content creation isn't just about me, it's the community that keeps me doing it. And it's humbling creating content because we do it because we love it. But to hear that other people are thankful for what you do, that get a sense of enjoyment and a sense of community from it, it's just so humbling. So for me, it has to be the community and the people and getting to know you. Not so much Shane, but you, Jack, and Ryan as well.
Yeah.
So
Shane's a bum.
Yeah,
content creation, like you said, has always been a blast. It's fun to go places and have people recognize you. Although that's been happening less. Everybody keeps asking Brian if he's me. I think it was post Virginia regional.
Mm-hmm.
Brian made top 8 at that, and they took like a group photo with all the top 8, and it got posted somewhere. And I think it was honestly sarcastic from the Hyperloops. It was like, man, is that Jack? He looks a little different. I think I was playing on stream too, and he was doing one of the commentators for it. He's like, I think that's Jack, but his skin's not dark enough. I'm pretty sure Jack like Mexican. I was like, what? What happened? How did we get here? But yeah, content creation's a blast. But Brian, how did you get into Destiny?
So for anyone that knows me, and that's like nobody, but for anybody that knows me, I like to throw money around a lot, even though I don't have it. And you tell me Star Wars, and I just throw everything I got at it. So Jack actually told me way back, I'd say it's like Spirit, right? Not Awakenings.
Yeah,
I think I came in because
like
the box shortage was an epidemic at that time. So I came in, bought some boxes of Spirit, and it was a blast. I've loved it since day one. But there have been plenty of road bumps on the way. I'll tell a quick story, and Jack is gonna laugh at me. But so I'm playing. From the very beginning, I think I got like Phasma 1 off of eBay for really cheap. Pulled Phasma, and I played like, I don't know, maybe it was a Trooper kind of thing or whatever. But Jack was on Leia Akbar at the time, and before It's a Trap was completely fixed, I think it was like turn 1, turn 2, and Jack rolls out 14 damage, and I was like, oh, what's mitigation? I don't have that. So, one of my first experiences is getting smacked by the master. So I think I've learned a lot, and it's always a good time. But definitely when you're playing with your friends and meeting all these people at the tournaments, it's super cool. Everyone's very nice and welcoming. It's a trap. It's a trap.
Welcome to Destiny. Oof. It's a trap. Here's 14 damage. It didn't even matter if you had mitigation. It had ambush.
Yep. Oh, I forgot I had ambush. Oh my, that card was crazy.
Those were the days. That was when Red Hero was relevant for a second. And now D-House and Shane have been crying in a corner ever since.
I was really lucky, and I only had that happen to me once because I didn't play Destiny a lot at that point in time when it was seeing a lot of play. And when it happened to me once, and that was about the time Poll came out, Poll 2, it was like, yeah, no, this is not fair. How is that such a thing? I am so lucky that it got hit. I was lucky where I didn't play against the hyperspace jump loop and some other unfun experience, but when that happened, I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I never played against the Hyperloop deck, but my favorite memory of It's a Trap actually wasn't against Brian. It was against one of our other buddies, Zach, who doesn't play anymore. And it was like he played I don't know, like blue melee villain sticks. I don't no idea which group it was or character pairing. But basically I was way behind, and the only way I could win is if I pulled off a max damage It's a Trap. And so he proceeds to roll out one of his characters, gets sticks, does whatever, and then he proceeds to roll out another character with Force Training. Force Training has that one range side, and he hit it, and then It's a Trap for like 20 damage. I was like, all right, this is great. He's like, what the? He just starts freaking out. I was like, oh, this game's great. This game is great. Cool. Yeah. So it's interesting to see how different people got into Destiny and how long they've kind of been around. Amanda, I almost wanted to ask about you've been updated with Irabel a little bit, and you have a new co-host. Is that correct with Sarah?
That is correct. Yes, we do. And she is wonderful. It's nice having her on the show. It is actually nice to have that back and forth with somebody that you can build from week to week. And she does such a great job. If you haven't listened to I Rebel in a while, I highly recommend and check out her website as well. She does great tokens as well. I'm happy to have her, and she's a wonderful co-host.
What is the name of her tokens? Do you know off the top of your head?
I do. It's Laser Gaming.
Laser Game. Yep.
And it's the Etsy page.
Yeah. So if you go to Etsy, you go to and search Laser Gaming, you'll find it. Cool. Yeah. I just wanted to ask and almost point that out to anybody who hasn't listened to Irabel in some time. If you're just looking at the statistic page or the results page, their podcast has changed a little bit, having Sarah on, so it's definitely worth a listen if you haven't in a little while. All right, we'll start to roll into some more of the specific Destiny talk. We in the United States here have wrapped up our regional season, and I was curious into what both of your opinions were on this regional season as a whole, in terms of how many there were, of the attendance statistics of them, and how you felt, and also the meta wise and gameplay wise of going and showing up. I know Brian and I went to 3 different ones. Amanda, I think you went to 2. So you could kick us off and just kind of give us your thoughts on how this regional season went.
I think it was a very healthy regional season. Obviously, there was hiccups here and there. You had a few locations that had caps that were at numbers that I feel like they shouldn't have been at. I felt like we had a wide variety of regionals compared to last year, which was really healthy. Unfortunately, it felt like they were a little bit more crammed this year, which I think may have affected some attendance. But I am so overly positive about it. The meta I thought was really good compared to past metas that we have had. I felt like it was very similar to the Legacies format. I think while the format is kind of figured out with the decline in Veda, if you went another month, it would be kind of interesting to see what would arise. But in the same token, you also have the meta go back into what it was before Across the Galaxy with Snoke 3 wide, a little bit more of Alpha. So it's like, it's kind of a mixed bag, but I do think it was a very good regional experience outside of stores getting picked that shouldn't have been picked, locations that got left out for whatever reason. You had people in charge of tournaments that should not have been, which I don't think was an issue last year. So I do think it was better than the last year regional, but it felt like they were sliding back in some places.
Yeah, most definitely. It was some head scratching decisions, and you heard them from all over. Like Florida only got 1, and it was in like a bad location. And I thought the change from Rochester, New York to New York City was a pretty bad one up here in New York, and I think that kind of showed with that having almost every other regional in this area hit 64 at least, and that one had like 35 or 36 or whatever it might have been. So, and then some regionals were scheduled like on the Magic pre-release day, and but overall, like you said, I think it was pretty healthy. And I actually had pulled up the attendance. We were down 9% from last year, but all the reasons you had mentioned of weird scheduling, of them being all crammed together, I think that played into it. And I think we actually had a healthy year, as you said as well. Brian, how do you feel like the regional season went, both attendance and meta wise?
Yeah, so this is my first card game, so I haven't really been to any events like this before. But from what I can see, I mean, everything was well attended. I mean, even in Virginia, they had I think it was Nathan, right, who unfortunately got left out due to the cap of the place. When I think they could have fit a couple more, but they were turning people away if you didn't register, and I think it's something like that that really hurts these kind of events. But looking at the attendance numbers, they're fairly good, for what I can tell at least, and they were all fun too. That's as much as I know about it.
How did you enjoy this? I mean, as you kind of said, you didn't really haven't gone to these before, so this is kind of your first experience in the higher levels of the meta. But how did you enjoy the games that you were playing? How did you feel the meta kind of shaped out? Did you enjoy playing against the decks you did, or did it feel like a slog each time?
Well, I mean, every place felt a little different because obviously, there's a lot of Vader going on, and as someone who brought Vader, that can either be super fun or super not fun. But I ran into some vehicles. I ran into a lot of mill. Ran into every now and again I got the random like, here's, I don't really know what to throw together, so I'm just going to throw this together. There's always something like that. That's
Yeah.
usually me, but I decided to try something a little different this time around. But it definitely felt varied, and it definitely felt, aside from all the everyone's going Vader, I mean, everyone felt like there's a lot of options, and definitely with standard. I was shocked that they went with the standard format with this, because I mean, maybe that's not something that's so shocking to everybody else, but I definitely would have thought they were pushing the trilogies format uh, sooner. I mean, I guess it's because the new set isn't out yet, and we don't know when the new set's coming out yet. But
Yeah, I mean, I think any event is forever going to be standard. I mean, that's the most card pool you'll get. It's the thing that people care the most about. So I think everything will always be uh, trilogies, and I think they generally try to avoid like rotation in the middle. Although we did have that last year, if I'm remembering correctly, because I think we had some before Christmas.
That would be correct. We had a couple of regional weekends before Legacies came out, because that was the format where Machu Picchu dominated.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, which was pretty crazy.
yeah. That was not a fun time. I did not enjoy those mirrors, and I mean that was. Oh, it almost felt like we were starting to get back into that with Thrawn Snoke until that nerf hit, and um, again, as both of you guys said, I thought the meta felt really wide open, changed from event to event, and overall, I was very positive with how the regional season went, and I thought it was awesome how much people stepped up, local communities, more so almost than content creators, really. Stepped up and were streaming all the events. I mean, I know the Jacqueline streamed some, Artificery streamed some. We obviously did 3. But there were a lot of like stores where it was just like people were in the discords are like, hey, I want to stream this event, like what do I do? And people were giving feedback and stuff like that, and obviously your Destiny streaming a lot of stuff as well, so it was really cool to just see members of the community really step up. They wanted to stream, all right, let's do it.
I am really glad that you brought that up, because I was going to mention that is one of the best things about this regional season was the coverage, and it makes me really optimistic about next year, because there's no way to go except up, and hopefully this is will lay the groundwork even for store championship. I think even if we got a store championship game that got streamed and recorded, even though those might not draw the same amount of views, it gives a lot more exposure and content to the game that gives it a sense of credence and value, for lack of a better word, that we didn't have last year.
Yeah, we streamed 2 towards the end of the store champs, and I'm excited to go back because now we actually have the equipment. Last time it was just my phone, and so it was just not that I need to be on my phone every second, but it was just like annoying to not be able to check anything or even do like Discord updates or talk with the chat for that stuff. So I'm excited for store champs to come back around, and we have 2 seasons of it now apparently. But that remains to be officially, well, I guess it's officially announced, but the exact format of it is yet to be revealed. So we'll transition almost a little bit into an FFG recap, and this will go from their high points to their low points, but how they've been doing the past few months. Almost, we can almost just say since 2019 came around. So really, we got January and February under our belts with FFG. How do you guys feel like they've been doing in 2019? And this can range from any form of communication to just how they've responded to things, but really just kind of just how you feel FFG is doing if they had to give them a report card.
I thought they were doing really well until this little hiccup with distribution, like not knowing this lack of release date. I thought they, up until like a week ago, I would have given them a B plus or a B. Obviously, there was no release date up until that point in time. Now I would probably give them a a B minus. It's kind of interesting because there is no sense of communication, no sense of information with the release date, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But the stream, I really love the stream. I love the communication with like the new OP structure, the galactic qualifiers. Everything seems like it was reasonably on time. It was nice. Obviously, things don't happen overnight, but I know that I was gradually finding myself more and more impressed. Like, hey, maybe they might have not really turn a corner, but started to realize, hey, we need to start changing how we do things. We need to take things more, like I said in last episode of I Rebel, things more seriously, or as my guest said, take the game a little bit more seriously, or the community, or whatever one he said. I forget which. But yeah, so
Yeah.
I would say right now a B minus. I would say.
All right, Brian, Mr. Teacher, here's your opportunity to hand out more grades.
Usually I am a very easy grader, and I don't know if I should be admitting that on the stream or whatever, but no, but I think that I agree a lot with Jedi Geek Girl, because the streams are great. Changing the OP is great, and I think it's needed, but they have to. This is the year of communication, according to them anyway, and we still don't know. And who am I? I'm not running a business, and I don't know how this business model usually is, but we haven't had something since November, and I'm just getting a little antsy. That's just me personally. I would like to open some packs, please, FFG.
Yeah, I actually think you guys are a little bit nicer than me. I definitely agree with you. I would probably give them around like a B for what they had done until these reports starting to come out about for anybody that hasn't heard, there's been some, I don't want to throw the stores under the bus or anything like that, but there's been some stores who have heard from the distributor alliance that Convergence and the starter kits are not going to come until April. And to me, that's obviously a big issue. If it comes late March, I get it. But also the fact that there's more so if this gets delayed, to me, the lack of communication to me is just unacceptable. So my B almost probably would have dropped down to like a C minus or a D or something. I would have let them plummet. But to me, like I just don't know how. Like if you make a mistake, just own up to it. I get there's probably nuances that we don't know about as consumers, right? We don't know about what goes on behind the scenes of whether or not the mouse actually has a big control about things. And I mean, we've seen the delays in articles, right? Zach Bunn wrote an article about drafting across the galaxy that came out in like January. So we're obviously aware that these delays are a thing, but how much it's actually impacting them, I'm unsure. And as mentioned earlier, they've talked about this being the year of communication, and obviously that was OP and wasn't the distributor or anything like that saying that. But I would still expect some form of, hey, we messed up, we're figuring out, we'll let you know soon. Just like the radio silence is just what drives me up straight up a wall. I don't understand how a company can just operate like that. But right. I know I could get all worked up if we really start to hammer home the the lack of communication. I could take a delay as long as you're just upfront and honest about what is happening, so we as consumers know. Right, we shouldn't be finding this out through like stores hearing it from the distributors, and even that's been misleading. Like the one store that we heard it from, we've heard other stores who haven't heard anything are still expecting it, the 14th ish. And finalizing their pre-orders. So it's just a whole mess, and just radio silence will drive me crazy. It's only been a day, I guess. I think that came out today, but
yeah, I agree. And I just, I feel like if they put a release date out and just said, hey, we're shooting for this date, and if they don't make the date, just say, hey, look, something happened. I feel like that would even be better than just saying like, well, we don't know. Maybe someday we'll have it, and you'll know we know, right? I mean, just like I think it's always better to ask for understanding. Take the Nintendo approach. Please understand.
I wouldn't be surprised if they have to get the date authorized from Lucasfilm just because they have to line things up with their marketing plan. I'm not sure. But you know me, I tend to be a little bit more optimistic when it comes to FFG and things in general. And I'm not one to get all hyped up. And I say this very calmly, but I'm really frustrated because I'm going to a Devta Con and I would love to play with the new set. I would love to play Infinite. I would love to play Trilogy. I don't want to play the same thing that everybody knows what to play. I would like to know what I'm walking into with Adepticon. And obviously I'm going there for coverage, I'm going there for the community, I'm going there for the spot glasses. But part of me is like, I am this close, if I was a different person, to just canceling my tickets. Obviously, it's too late to cancel now, but it just wouldn't be worth it to me to attend a Galactic Qualifier right now, knowing that we're walking into the same thing. I mean, obviously, you have your spot glasses, but the money that you would pay into the event, into the hotel room, into gas and food and stuff like that, you can just turn around and buy a spot glasses.
Yeah.
So as someone who's attending Adepticon, what's the point of going if the reason why you were going was this new frontier of Star Wars Destiny?
Yeah, and that's a big thing too. I feel bad for anybody that was going to Adepticon for those reasons, as you mentioned. And part of me, even when I realized that Adepticon was going to be an infinite, a sealed, a standard, a trilogy, like part of me pulled up the dates and was like, all right, can I make this work? Like this seems like I would love to be there to do these GQs. And it was a quick thought and it wasn't able to work out for me. But like there's probably people who found that out and they're like, oh, this does work for me. I'm going to Adepticon because of these 4 different GQs and this seems like an absolute blast. So it is definitely, I feel bad for anybody that got excited for Adepticon for that. So hopefully it gets cleared up so people can at least know what to expect, because a lot of people probably slotted away most of their Awakenings block stuff anyways. They're like, oh, I don't need this for Adepticon. Let me just make my infinite deck and then I'm good to go. So most of their stuff they might have to take back out so they can make a standard deck again. But and I understand, like as you mentioned too, lining up with Lucasfilm and everything, or Disney and whatever it might be. I also know that Alliance, or whether it's Asmodee or Alliance, they don't like to hold on to their product. Whereas like, the comparison goes to Magic, right? For the next year, they know their next like 2 or 3 sets and what day they're coming out. But Magic is also okay with like ordering them and having it sit at a distributor or warehouse or whatever for a month or whatever. But Asmodee or Alliance is not like that. I think they want it to come in and go out immediately so they don't have to pay for that storage or anything like that. So that's also like another issue, is that you're just kind of dealing with that. But I do, again, props to FFG for the streams they did of the Obi-Wan and Grievous starters, of Jeremy going to Team Covenant Master Series, and the Toronto GQ article that they put out today. I think all that stuff has been fantastic, and I hope that continues. And so that's obviously OP, and OP's been doing a good job. We will start to, so now we gave FFG our grades. We'll start to dive almost into rotation, but just for a second, I want to touch on 2 spoilers that we just got this week from Discard to Reroll. It's a little friendly podcast, or I forget his exact name. A little podcast where we like to talk about our favorite card game.
Discard to Reroll.
Yeah, I don't listen to Discard.
I thought it was a Transformers podcast. What are you talking about here?
No,
well, no.
On Twitter, he's into that trading card game.
No, I thought it was Dragon Ball. It's Dragon Ball. That's it. It's Dragon Ball.
Yeah. They have the famous Thundershot from Dragon Ball Super on the show. They're dabbling a little bit in some Destiny, I think. Who knows?
A little bit.
Definitely Dragon Ball mainly. But anyways, I guess FFG decided to give Dragon Ball some spoilers. So they got a character, Maz Kanata. She's a candy negotiator. She's a hero, a rogue, and she's a rare in uniqueness. She's a character scoundrel. She's 10 points for single die, 13 for elite. She's got 10 health. She's got a 2 range, 2 indirect, 1 focus, 1 shield, 1 resource blank. And she has a power action that says an opponent chooses and does 1. You choose and do 2 others. And those things are deal 1 indirect damage to a player, turn an opponent's die to any side, reroll any number of dice, draw a card. How do you guys feel about Maz?
I feel like this card is very spicy. I like seeing it into the game. I don't think it will see a lot of play, but it definitely creates an interesting scenario with you and your opponent. It's almost like a little mini game of chess. And I don't know if it was Jamie who talked about this, but he likes seeing this in a game where you are playing a game and then you introduce a game or a mechanic that it in itself is a low game, because if you were to play Maz against your opponent is trying to do the best thing for them or trying to disrupt you, and you're trying to trigger it when it best works for you. So I really like a card like this in the game, but I don't think it's good. unfortunately. I'm not a huge fan of Maz coming back to the game. I'm like, why is Maz back in the game? But I really love how interesting her character cut is, and I hope we see more of it just to add more layers to the game.
Brian, how do you feel about Maz?
As somebody who tried to slot ATST into every deck he could when he first started out, just because the card isn't good doesn't mean I don't like it. So I think for 10-13 and 10 health, Maz looks cool to me. I mean, I'll definitely try her out at a couple different places, and I do like the idea that Jedi Geek Girl was talking about, where it is like a game of chess. You know, like the power action isn't crazy, but I feel like it's kind of predictable almost what your opponent's going to do. You know, it definitely is situational, but I like her. I mean, I definitely try. I'm more interested in Moxie personally, but I definitely think that Maz is cool.
Yeah, I think for 10-13, 10 health, like she has decent dice sides as well. You know, 2 range, 2 indirect, a focus, and a resource is always never going to complain about. But I just don't think you're getting much from the power action. I think there's just probably better options at cheaper or even at that same point. Like, right, 13 points. I understand it's a different color, but it's like if 13 points, my mind just goes to Yoda,
Absolutely.
who's obviously a great character. But it is interesting, and it makes sequencing super crazy. I feel like if you're playing Maz, like obviously you don't want to do her action while your opponent has a lot of dice in the pool, because then I feel like they just re-roll everything, and they might hit more really good damage sides that you can't just turn one of them to a blank to get out of it. And if you're doing that, then you're probably only drawing a card. The indirect doesn't really feel worth it. So yeah, I echo what both of you were saying about her. But we'll move on to Moxie, which of course is the more interesting thing. It's a hero rogue rare. It's an upgrade ability. It costs 2. It's got a 1 focus, a 1 shield, a 1 resource, special, blank. Special is use a special ability or a power action on attached character, even if it was used this round. So an important thing to note before we get into whether or not we like it is that if you use the Moxie special to use the power action for the first time, you don't get to use it again. So an example of Maz, if you roll out, use the Moxie special to do Maz's power action, you would place a token on there and you wouldn't get to use it again. Whereas if you just use her power action and then roll her out and then do the special, then you get 2 uses out of that power action. So that's just a sequencing type thing, I guess you could say. I don't know. I'm probably throwing around sequencing when it really doesn't make sense, but those are the order of actions that you would need to do to get the most value out of it. So how do we feel about Moxie?
I really do like this card. I do think it will see competitive play. As soon as this card was revealed, I'm like, I want to play this card. It almost makes me want to try Yoda Boosh to see how that would work in that deck. I realized that maybe it might be a little bit better in like a Lando Leia Mill type deck, but I do think that what it brings to the game is kind of like Cunning. Cunning saw play since the beginning and up until it got rotated in some decks, and there's a reason why it saw play. And while it's a little bit more restrictive, where you can only use the special ability and a power action on the character that it was attached to, it's not yellow only. So it's kind of a trade-off, and you get 2 specials too. So I do think you will see play at the very least in Mill, if not Yoda. I think it works well in Yoda too, because Yoda's dice are so valuable. Now you get 3 Yoda dice. So I really love this card. I'm really thinking about trying it.
Brian, how you liking Moxie?
I also am a big fan. I mean, it is like Cunning, a lot like Cunning. So I mean, I think that you put this in where, you know, when you're playing Yoda for sure. I mean, but other cards definitely have use for it too. I mean, a 2-drop with two special sides, a focus. There's really no bad side except for the blank. Everything's usable here, and I definitely like it. The art's pretty cool too.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as both of you. With all this cross deck building, it'll be interesting to see if this finds a spot in some sort of villain deck with Emphasis. You know, it'd be crazy if there was some way to get this into like a Snoke 3-wide, obviously. And if you drop this on Snoke, it uses power action twice. That could be
wow, could you
pretty
imagine?
dirty.
Oh,
yeah. And as Jedi Geek Girl pointed out, the double special is, to me, what makes me love this so much more than Cunning as well. I get Cunning had a higher upside because you could use a special, you know, on anything. If you dropped a Force Wave, you could cunning that, or handcrafted light bow is a big thing with that as well. But just having the double special side makes it nice for the decks that don't special change, can kind of get this off a little bit more consistently without having to burn focus all the time for that. So yeah, so that's our thoughts on those. That's from Discard to Reroll with Chip and Ray. And on that episode, they had Drew and Paul from Arrowbrook on that episode. And that's a good one to listen to. But we'll start to get into rotation and just kind of what we're excited about, what we're excited to lose, what we're sad to see go. So I guess we'll just start off with the question. What are you guys going to miss the most out of the Awakenings block? Is there a specific card or character, or you obviously can name 2 or 3. It doesn't have to be just one. But is there anything that you're going to miss more than anything else from this first block?
For me, it will be Sabine. I know that's not a popular choice, but I really love Sabine. I think Sabine's like my favorite card. I love what she was doing later in the format, how she became a little bit more of a stall until you get your win, which wasn't fair because you were still cheating out actions and stuff like that. But I felt like what Andrew Cox Reflex said on I Rebel about how Sabine didn't fully deserve everything that she got. Obviously, she still did, but there was a lot more there to the card than meets the eye. And playing Sabine, and you can relate to this, Jack, it seems like there was more than people were giving it credit to, but she was still unfair for the meta, and if she got the point bump deservingly, I hope we can see more of her in Infinite. But yeah, so Sabine and Force Illusion. Force Illusion is not another popular one, but what you hear about people talking about Trilogy and the damage output, it would be nice to have some sort of sustainability, even if it's not directly Force Illusion. I think people are starting to realize that what Force Illusion gives to the game is something that we need, especially going into the new format. So it would be nice to get something to replace that, even if it's a new, more restrictive version of the same card.
Yeah, that's fair. So Sabine and Force Illusion were your 2. And Brian, do you want to give some cards that you are going to miss?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think so. I'm through and through a blue villain guy. So for me personally, I'm gonna miss all the blue villain mitigations. Feel your anger. Even it's not specifically villain, but Mind Trick I'll definitely miss. Mind Trick's a great one, and I think most of all I'm gonna miss Sith Holocron. I think that card is busted. Putting it on Palp and dropping a Force Lightning for free, then rolling it in, and then maybe getting a lot of value out of it for essentially free is crazy. And Sith Holocron is definitely way up there. Force Illusion, I definitely will miss, but I think it's okay. I'm okay to let go of it at this point. Like that and Force Speed and like the staples to all the other stuff. It's like an ancient lightsaber. Like so
Yeah.
all those cards. I'm ready to let go.
Yeah, I'm not like against keeping them. I'm just excited to see like what the meta is going to shape out to be without them. Just exciting that way. For my favorite cards, I will echo the Sabine one. Obviously, she's been my favorite card since since Worlds last year. And so obviously I will be missing her. Also, I'll be missing Han Solo, the original one, the Scoundrel from Awakenings. He was like the first. Him and Rey were like the first real deck I played. I feel like. Well, I played Qui-Gon Rey a little bit, but I took second place at a store champ with Han Rey, and I've kind of loved him since. It's a bummer that he's phased out, but we do have a new Han Solo, which is good. But I still love that like episode 4 Scoundrel that we grew to love. And this one is probably probably get a few people going maybe, but I'm gonna miss Poe. Like I wish he was still around back at his 18-point cost. I understand why they're probably not going to do that because it brought certain feelings of negative play experience to that. But there was Brian, I don't know if you were there. We had an Extra Life tournament to raise charity, and you could pay money to do extra things with your deck. And I forget, one was like $10 and you had like a -2 plot or whatever it was. You know what I mean? Like you had extra room for your characters. And so I paid for that and then ran Poe Maz and came in second. and I was like, man, I wish this was still around. But that was at the time when like Snoke Afro Battle Droid was everywhere, and throwing thermals into people's faces felt good. I was like, man, I wish it was still around to keep that in check. But I will miss Poe. But we do have a that 15-point Poe still around. He's still in the game, so he's not gone forever.
I got so triggered at that tournament. There was a guy there who bought the cheats, and he only used them on me. He told me, and it was like you can get a shield after every so and so. So he had like shields on shields on shields on shields.
Oh, that was the first one. I meant this last year, like
Okay,
a few months ago.
gotcha.
I don't know if you were there for that.
I don't remember. I don't recall. There's a lot of tournaments these days. So,
well, out of the 3 sets, what do you guys feel like your favorite set was? Awakening, Spirit, or Empire?
It would be easily Awakenings. I feel like it was a very balanced set. Obviously, Spirit of Rebellion, you had a lot of cards that totally changed the game and speed the game up. Empire at War was kind of bland-ish, and you got into the Kyle. Well, you had the 2-player set, but you had Unkar Thrawn, you had Kylo FN, which, to be fair, didn't include Empire War, and then you went right into the R2P2 format, which was dull and boring. So that kind of like dragged down a set. It did introduce Ahsoka, which I'm currently looking at right now, which was absolutely great to have in the game. And you also had Ray, Kanan, you had some good cards, but it felt like it didn't have the same punch as the previous 2 sets. But for me, it has to be Awakenings because it was the first set. It was a brand new level of exploration. It's like your first time watching a film, you know nothing about it, and you're discovering how the game works. What is a good die side? What is the value of a character point? What's the value of die removal? What are the assets in this game that I can use where you don't have that in later sets? So for me, it would have to be Awakenings.
For me personally, I would say that because I mentioned before that there was a box shortage for Awakenings, and I really didn't have any Awakenings at all to start with. I mean, Spirit of Rebellion was bonkers to me. Like the set was on 11 at all times, and I just there was no turning it down whatsoever. I mean, Awakenings is great. Awakenings was nice and I want to say pretty balanced with the exception of with Poe. There are some things in Awakenings that were off, but Spirit of Rebellion definitely. I mean, I pulled a box of Spirit, and like the first thing I got of legendaries was like Palp and Force Lightning, and I was like, whoa, here we go. I can definitely say that my least favorite was Empire War because it was just it was very bland. I agree with you there. There are some cards like Ancient Lightsaber that are a staple in every deck, but whenever I tend to make like 4 or 5 decks at a time and then just rip them all apart at once. And whenever I'm sorting through things, especially in this latest, Legacies block, I just the shortest, the smallest pile is always without a doubt Empire War, and it's usually just my 2 my 2 Ancient Lightsabers every time.
Yeah, it was like a weird set. Like it had some gems in there, as you mentioned, with the ancients, and then it had Shotos as well. But it had like the X8, but then it had and then it had like Mace Windu and Grand Inquisitor, and Thrawn was a good one in there, and Sienna's good as well. But it was definitely a weird set because it like half pushed vehicles, but like vehicles were still garbage like with them. I'm looking at them now. It's like the Z95 never really felt good.
Mm-hmm.
The Airspeeder was fine. The T-47 was fine, but then
wasn't that EMP grenades too in that set?
EMP was in there. Chance Cube was in there too.
Oh, I love Chance Cube.
But then there's like the ATDP, which is kind of pretty much irrelevant. The Houndstooth is irrelevant. The Ghost has always been irrelevant. The Y-Wing was relevant for a time-ish. Chopper was like it was just like a whole bunch of junk of like these supports. But then there was just like Rally Aid, which was obviously huge to hero vehicles as it moved into the legacy set, and we got some more vehicle support, and then we're currently in the world of supports.
I got into vehicles really late into the game, and I mean just recently, and I think I'll miss the most from that set is Weapons Factory Alpha for sure.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I think one of the things I always remember about Empire at War is the bad art on Ezra and Hera.
Yeah, those were pretty
Oh,
rough.
and Rookie Pilot.
Oh, Rookie
Yeah.
Pilot. uh, oh man,
Oh, I love
and
Rookie
that's what
You
Pilot.
know,
I love Rookie Pilot so much. His art is so dumb. Zoom up on the
so
face of the
I
Rookie
want to.
Pilot if you haven't before. Just saying.
So I would like to sidetrack a little bit because I bring up Hera, and as many people know, I'm going to Celebration, and one of the people who I am going to meet is the voice of Hera. And one of the things I am doing is I'm getting my card signed. So it's going to be interesting to see her face when she looks at that card.
You should find the guy that voices Ezra, give him the new one, and see what he
I will do
says.
that. You know, I will totally
Uh,
100% do that. I might actually do that right now after I get done recording because he's
yeah,
going to be there. So
perfect. That is like this Ezra was bad, but like this Ezra was bad. I thought Ezra 2 was fine. I liked his saber was a little rough. But then I think this new Ezra just takes the cake of the ugly Ezras.
Oh
Like he's
yeah.
just so
The
he's
faces.
rough.
I feel like the faces are always hit and miss with these kinds of cards. I don't know.
Yeah. Generally the legacies and on has been I've thought really good. They've had a few stinkers, but overall I think the art's just kind of been um on the up and up since then.
There's one weapons master, I think it is, where it's Finn in the I don't know if it's the Falcon or the Crate
Oh,
Speeder, and
with
I'm
like the
like,
buck teeth and
and I'm like, every time I look at that
yeah.
card, I'm like, why? Why would they do that? Why?
Yeah, why would you print this? Yeah, so I mean that's kind of what we've talked about. Mine was Awakenings. I don't know if I specifically said whether or not what my favorite one was, but overall I thought Awakenings was a great set. But is there anything that hasn't been reprinted or at least revealed? Obviously we don't have all 180 cards or whatever it is for this new set, but is there something that hasn't been announced um that you're hoping gets reprinted in the new set?
I would like to see more character reprints. Obviously, with the power creep, you cannot do that with all the characters. I think you could get away with Bala. I think you could get away with Padawan. I think maybe you could get away with Sienna. I'm not sure. But I would like to see more character reprints because they are a little bit more out of the box compared to your staples. I don't know if that will be likely. Obviously, you would want new versions of characters, but with your non-uniques, you could like reprint them just fine because at a point you're going to struggle ish with non-unique characters. You kind of already see that with some non-unique characters, but not counting characters. I think one right off the top of my head would have to be overconfidence. I would like to see overconfidence back. I think for one, disrupting two dice and removing one is fair. It's balanced. You can play it a number of different ways. You can do two of your opponents. If you're feeling really lucky, you can do two of your own or one of your own and one of your opponents. I think that it's a very fair card. And two dice for one resource is, as we all know, it's very good. So
Brian, what about you?
As a history teacher, I feel like I'm really going to contradict my entire way of life here, but while I agree that reprinting some cards is awesome, it's fantastic, and obviously there's some cards that really don't break the game, and you could reprint them and it's fine. It's fair, it's balanced, whatever have you. But I always kind of when I'm looking at a new set, I really like looking at how FFG has pushed the game to new places. So like I'm of the camp that you don't need to reprint that many cards. And I think what they have now is, fine. I don't think that if they don't reprint more cards, I would totally be okay with going on to the next set and saying, all right, we're in a new territory here, and that's fine personally. So I think that we're fine on reprints as far as that goes. I mean, if they want to reprint Sith Holocron, I wouldn't be upset about it. You know what I mean? But that's as far as I'm going to go on that.
I don't think we see any more zero cost
Oh, I just
upgrades,
love it
which is
so much.
a good thing. And and yeah, I get that. I hope that there's not a lot of reprints as we get into set 8 and 9, I guess it would be. Whatever they might be. But I feel like the block sets are probably going to have reprints just because they're like kind of kicking it off, and like there's only so much design space to pay one to remove a die. You know what I mean? Like there's only so much like avenues of areas that you can do, right? There's only you could do a spot of each color and whatnot. But reprinting the ones that were fine, like the best defense is a totally good one to bring back and a fair one that saw play.
I think if we get that in like a 2-player set or another 2-player set, if that ever comes about, like that would be cool because it's stuff that you can, it's easily accessible. Like when they did it for the 2-player set, they reprinted some things like what was it, like I think Flank was in there, right? Something like that. So
Flank's reprinted for the 3rd time.
Is it really?
Now, yeah, it's in the draft kit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean stuff like that's fine, but we don't need too much.
I agree with that when it comes to starter decks and draft kits. I think that is where you reprint. That is where you reprints. But I do think having reprints is important to the game. I think it adds a level to the game where you are making the game more intriguing to newer players. Where because I used to play Pokemon, and Pokemon has a lot of reprints. Obviously, Magic does too, and it's kind of nice having this card that has a different picture or different set things that is associated with it that other cards that don't have a reprint don't. And it also is good for the game creators too, because if you have to reprint, hypothetically here, worst case scenario, 20 cards each set, worst case scenario, then you only have to create like 140 cards, which means you're not going creatively, or 140, 160, whatever. You're not drying yourself when it comes to creativity, because if you're creating 180 cards, 160 cards each set, you kind of dry up on creativity, or you're pushing the power level. If you have cards that are reprinted, you're creating some sort of base level to the game. And then, like I said, I think it's good because it's helping the game creators, it's helping the players. It's also really cool if in 5 years you bring out your Awakening Best Defense or your Awakening Defense stance. I don't know why you would run that, or Truce. Truce. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of nice to have. Everybody will have their preference too. Like some people will only like to play the new stuff. Some people will only play the old stuff. Some people will play the picture that best fits their personality. So.
Yeah, and especially if they're doing like the Best Defense, like the fact that they did promos for the first store championship with that, like it'll be really cool to be able to bust those out again. As that's still, I still like the original art more so than I do like this new art. So being able to use the promo will be really cool.
You made a good point about the promos. It also makes the promos relevant. Some of the promos, obviously, Force Speed is not going to be relevant.
Yeah,
but...
yeah, that was an interesting choice. Force Speed.
Oh, I've got like 7 of those.
Yeah, what's actually convinced me a little bit on like unique upgrades as our whatever they're called, as our promos. Why could I not think of that word right there? But this regional season, it almost made me like happy about this, because now if I get 2 promos, I can have 2 decks with 2 Vader Sabers, right? Assuming that I have to, and then put a die at each of them. And so like these legendaries that are unique, it's letting me expand them a little bit more, which I kind of like, and has been nice. A little convenient. Not that you're really like slotting 2 Vader Sabers in 2 different decks, but I'm just saying that possibility is there. But I don't know if there's any reprints I want. Like, I don't think I really care. There's, I'm fine with them leaving as much as I want. Like, I'm not sold or going to miss anything that much. I hope that they go back and fix a few characters. Like, if they bring them back in, like having a new Asajj is cool, because even if I don't think this one's going to be great, the old one was pretty rough. And then like if you like a Baze and Churret and stuff too. Excited to see that. Maybe Luminara rears her head again, but maybe could be playable.
Remember that.
Here, let's design a character about having other non-uniques around her, but let's make her 17 points. Okay.
While we are looking back on Awakening, could I throw a fun question?
Do it.
What was the worst character in the Awakening's block?
Oof.
In the block.
Good
question.
Is it
like, does Luminar take it? Like, she's up there.
I was thinking Luminar myself.
Like, there's some rough ones.
No. Mon Mothma.
Whoa. I love Mon Mothma.
Mon Mothma, hired gun.
Absolutely. Hey, just because she's not good doesn't mean I will not play her. Like I said, ATSD. ATSD.
Well, do you have that Worlds promo or that sheet?
Oh, gosh. I do not. Oh, that thing is so ugly. Man, but there's some, like, There's just they
Jedi
didn't know how to
Acolyte.
cost characters.
Jedi Acolyte
Like,
pretty
but
bad.
at least Acolyte's just like, all right, whatever. It's a non-unique, but like, Mon Mothma was rough. Baze was rough. IG-88 was
Sure, it
rough.
was rough.
Yeah, Asajj, like I said, was rough. Krennic
I
was
love
rough.
Krennic. I wish Krennic was better.
Oh, I wish he
Like the
was good.
Death
And then
Trooper
obviously
guy.
some of these are like some are left in the dust because of the game advancing. Like for example, like Veers was a good character in his time, or at least an okay character in his time. But obviously he's fallen off to the wayside. But like some of the characters we just named weren't even playable when they came out. Like
It's kind of funny because you were naming off all those characters, and I can just imagine triggering an audience with naming all those characters.
yeah, there was somewhere on Reddit. I have to go like find it again. Obviously, I'm not going to try to do it right now because it's probably deep in the Reddit library. But it was like somebody did like that question, and it like broke every set down, broke it down by the color, and then after that results came in, it then put them all back in together. So it was like, what was the worst Awakenings red hero? What was the worst Awakenings red villain type thing? So it was really cool to see that. I don't really remember the results off the top of my head. I remember Luminara kind of taking a big chunk out of that, Mon Mothma as well. But yeah, there were some stinkers in there. Jin was up there as well.
Oh yeah, Shane actually made a good Jin deck. I mean, good
Let's not get
is
carried away.
relative. Good is relative. It beat me, but I think I was playing some real trash at the time. He was like,
Real
"Yeah, I
Jin.
have this 3-die." You remember that? It was like a 3-die. I can't remember what the pairing was, but
Hey, I won a tournament with Gen 1. Well, to be fair, it was an overcost tournament where you could only pick from 6 or 7 characters. But hey, I won with Gen 1. Gen 1 Ezra.
I could see that. Yeah, in like a vacuum of that, I think she would be like compared to the other 20 cost stinkers. She was a
Well,
like I would.
again, decks were restricted to 6 different characters, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like if it's I have to pick between her, Obi-Wan the Hermit, and like Krennic, I think I'd take her each time.
Obi-Wan the Hermit. Forgot about him.
Yeah. All right, we'll start to. So we got one last question before we get into Patreons. So we're a little bit over an hour, so we'll try to steam through it a little bit, I guess. But so looking post rotation into standard, is there anything that's jumping out at you that you think is something to be on the lookout for people going? I guess the Devta Con, like you said, is the next big thing. I don't know. Is there any deck or some form of a deck that you could, for example, like Blue Hero? Obviously, we don't know what is going to be the best deck yet, or Shadowcast, or is there like a specific lineup that you think is going to be good? So, if you're looking post rotation, where are you looking?
I was looking at a 2-wide deck because I am a 2-wide character player. That's my play style. That's what I've been playing since the beginning. When Afra came out, I was drawn towards her because I absolutely love Afra, and Ahsoka wasn't good, so I wasn't going to play Ahsoka. And at the time, you could run Ahsoka Tarkin, which didn't feel quite right. It wasn't competitive and standard. And then you went 3-wide, and I didn't feel like it really didn't click with me. So right now, to answer your question, Afra is speaking to me because I'm a huge fan of the character. She's competitive. She has more options than ever before, and she's strong. You don't have to play that complex 3-wide like you did in Way of the Force. Obviously, you are still playing a deck that requires a lot of thought, but I never played a 3-wide deck. I never played with Afra, and I want to do that because I want to learn that play style. I want to learn to expand from 2-wide to 3-wide, and I want to play a character I love, like I did with Sabine. Like playing a deck with a character that you love, there's just something about that I don't know. It scratches something in you. And when I was playing with Afra with the Afra Vader 1 deck in a casual tournament, it's like I love Afra. I love this play style. I want to expand it. And with so many good things coming out to her, I definitely want to give it a try. So yeah, Afra.
Yeah, she looks in a good spot. What about you, Bri?
Yeah, I think that Vader's not going anywhere. I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of Vader for sure. I think Mill is going to be strong as well. Me specifically, I have no idea. Like the set is all over the place with good stuff and maybe not so good stuff, but I think that you're going to see again maybe a healthy spread of everything, but mostly Vader. Definitely going to find decks that are still abusing Fist, decks that are abusing Shadowcaster, because those cards I feel like they're not going anywhere personally.
Yeah, I definitely back up those sentiments. I think for me, I still am like competitive wise. I mean, there's nothing really competitive to me to play for, but that 3 wide mill, still think is just such a good deck. I mean, and if somebody was going to a Devta Con, that's what I would tell them to run. And I'm glad that Mike was on the show last week to kind of echo that, and he had a Mike from the Hyperloops, Mike Gem. He echoed that, and they also posted an article because for a while, even like after PAX, people would say, "What should I run for trilogies? What should I run for trilogies?" And I'd always say this 3 wide, and people were like, "No, no, it lost." Force Illusion, Second Chance. It's not looking that good, but it's a killer
I did
deck.
well with
It's
it
still
at
got
PAX.
27 health.
On
Yeah,
trilogies.
that's what
Like it
both you
was,
and I did well with it at
yeah,
PAX.
it was still definitely viable. Even with the cards that we lost, it's still a definitely
Yeah,
viable option for sure. And they're still adding cards, So I mean, there's something you can slot
yeah,
in for everything.
yeah. And Leylando is obviously a good mill option as well. But my personal fun deck that I'm going to go to is going to be Han Chewie. I'm still holding out hope that the Yellow Hero legendary weapon or one of the rares or something is going to be helping them out a bit, even if it's not like a Chewy thing, even if it's just a good yellow upgrade, because we're losing some, right? We're losing the X8 and the holdout, and is that it from the old block of guns? I don't know.
Yeah.
Can't think any off the top of my head, but yeah, losing those is obviously a big deal for a range deck, and I understand that Chewy's not very good, but I love Han and I love Chewy, so I'm definitely going to be making that deck early to play around with, and then I'll run into mill and not be able to guardian anything, and just kind of cry.
Poor Chewy.
Yeah, really. All right, so we'll look at our Patreon questions. They do cover the first one, at least covers what we kind of talked about what cards we're kind of looking forward to rotate. What are we going to miss type thing. So we'll move on past that. But Mended asked, which character that has been spoiled interests us the most? Jedi Geek Girl, if you want to hit us off, what's a character that interests you the most that's been spoiled this set?
I think it has to be my girl. It has to be Ahsoka. I don't know where she fits right now, but I think there's something you can do with her. I just don't know what it is right now. With her being cheap and her dice being really solid for her point cost, like, I don't know if you do a 3 wide with her sometime in the future, if you do a big little with her. I don't know what that looked like, but I'm really excited to have her back in the game. I'm really excited to dive into what you can do with her, but I just don't know what you can quite do with her. But yeah, I'm happy to have Ahsoka back in the game again, and pretty decent to boot.
Agreed. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where she falls, like you said, whether it's the 3 wide or if it's something like Mace where you can pull that knighthood and make her a Jedi, give her fast hands. So, yeah, she interests me a lot as well. Brian, what about you? What's a character that interests you in the upcoming set?
As I said before, I am a blue villain guy through and through. So I mean, I'm gonna have to go with, in the words of Jay from Double Blanks, Big Pat Daddy. I think that Palpatine looks fun, and the idea of rolling a possible. I mean, I was watching the Airbook guys play their TTS games, and 8-die Palp looks gross. Even if it is just like 2 bartering, 2 malice, which, sorry, Jack, I don't want to get you upset by
Malice is
bringing up
garbage, dude. Get it out of here.
But it's so cool, and I feel like it's easily played around in Palp. There's some hiccups and road bumps you got to figure out to make it absolutely great. But I think the Palp has potential, and the fact that you can just add on to his health count really interests me. So I think I'm gonna have to go with Palp for sure. Unlimited power, baby. Unlimited power.
Unlimited power. I love that this is like his title.
Absolutely.
For me, I'm probably like all over the place. Like I'm excited for so many people. Like these starters are really, the characters just seem great. I'm excited for Obi-Wan and Grievous. I mean, Tambor seems interesting. Watto seems interesting. And then perfect. I didn't realize Watto was on this podcast.
Very good.
And as Amanda said, like Afra's really getting a bump up, so I'm excited to see these characters. Too bad K2SO I still think is going to be left behind. Second attempt, still struggling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I have the character list right here in front of me, and just all of these characters really like just seem exciting for. I mean, obviously non-uniques. I don't really, sure if they're good, but not going to excite me like if it's a character I recognize if they're good. But yeah. And the last question we have here from Ended is: does Jack always wear red shorts with his Golden Dice shirt? And that's a no. Sometimes I wear some black sweatpants or gray sweatpants. I've been wearing that long sleeve baseball tee one a little bit for the shirt. So I've been mixing it up just a little bit. But that's my like superhero outfit, right? Red shorts with my yellow Golden Dice
like
shirt.
Clark Kent, you just rip off whatever you're wearing to basketball shorts and the Golden Dice T-shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking maybe it was more of a trademark.
Yeah,
You could trademark it.
Yeah, nobody else can show up to any Destiny tournament with red shorts and a yellow goldenish shirt.
Well, at least people can find you.
Yeah, I stick out like a sore thumb, and I really love how like ugly it is. Like I think it started from Worlds. I wore that on day 2, just because that was like the only pair of clothes I had left that were clean by that point. And so I just kind of wore it, and it was super ugly, and so many people made comments about it that I've just repeatedly have wore it and made a point to wear it to everything I go to. But yeah, I mix it up. I keep it fresh a little bit, just a little bit. But that just about does it for everything that we have. Do you guys have any closing thoughts before we let Jedi Geek Girl kind of plug her stuff?
I am really optimistic about the future. I do have concerns with the current situation, but I still think the game is really exciting. We know that the game is at least planned up until set 10. We know that there's a lot of new Star Wars coming out in 2019, which will only grow the game. That what we see in the game will only expand because of this new content that we're getting. While we do have concerns with the current situation and FFG, I'm optimistic, and I hope everybody else is, because even though there are hiccups, we are in this game for the community, but there is no community without a good game.
Agreed. Brian, closing thoughts?
Please give us a date, FFG. Please be nice to us. I'm going through withdrawal. I need to spend my money on Destiny like yesterday and rip into the sweet packs and get 17 of the same legendary this time again like last time.
Crime Lord, baby.
Oh my god, I know I'm gonna get it. I know I'm gonna get all of my boxes will have at least a Crime Lord, and then maybe I'll get some misprints where I have 4 Crime Lords in each box. But no, but I love this game, and I think the community is awesome, and please release date, please.
Yeah, I'm excited just for everything. And I'm just excited to see how it plays out. These characters look exciting. I hope some middle pairings stick around, and it's not like a vehicle meta, but I'm just excited to see how it shapes out. But that'll do it for all the talk that we have. Jedi Geek Girl, if people are looking to find you on the interwebs, listen to your podcast, and just get in contact with you, is there a specific way that they can do that?
Yes, people can contact me personally on Twitter at Jedi Geek Girl, or they can contact the podcast, I Rebel, a Star Wars Destiny podcast, by sending us an email at irebeldestiny@gmail.com, or they can send us a message on our Facebook page, I Rebel, a Star Wars Destiny podcast, or a Twitter account at iRebelDestiny.
If you're looking for me, anywhere that Jack goes, I will be the short Buzz Lightyear shaped gentleman in the yellow golden dice shirt. So
there you go. Well, I mean, like, if you join our Patreon, you get access to our Discord, and we know everybody's joining that to talk to Brian.
Oh yeah, you know me. Well, at least they're not talking to Flocken
one
about
comment
it's
a
Ray
week.
1 meta. I do make one comment a week, and it's usually like, release date, please.
Yeah, really. All right, but that just about does it for us. Of course, if you're looking to find more of Golden Dice, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, all those good things. And of course, we have a Patreon page as always that, as mentioned earlier, gets you access to our Discord and certain tiers. We have gameplay videos and rewards and different things like that. But yeah, I will give Jedi Geek Girl our closing thought. Take us home.
Thank you so much for listening, and we are out.